Okay, so let's be honest. The job search, anyone out there listening can probably relate. This whole thing could be a real roller coaster, right?
Oh, yeah, definitely. You get so excited one minute, and then the next you're like drowning in self-doubt. It's tough.
So tough.
Yeah.
But that's actually what we're diving into today. We're looking at some advice from Kushali, a UX designer who helps people kind of find their way in the UX and product development world.
I've been looking over her stuff, too. She's got this program, Career Success Launchpad, right?
Yeah, exactly. And
Mm.
and she helps everyone from career switchers to, people who've been doing this for years but are just looking to, level up or switch it up a little bit.
I think what's so cool about her advice is like she just gets straight to the point. You know what I mean?
Totally. It's practical stuff you can actually use. Like
Yeah.
right away, her first tip is to ditch that whole like spray and pray approach to job applications.
Yeah.
Like just applying to every single thing
No.
you see.
So many people do that, though. It's
Yeah.
so easy to burn out that way,
Hmm.
applying to everything, and then nothing happens, and you just feel awful.
She uses this great analogy. It's like imagine dating like that, going on a date with every single person you come across.
Oh my gosh, you'd be exhausted.
Yeah. And you probably wouldn't find someone who you really connect with either.
It's not just about the exhaustion, though. I think it actually like hurts your confidence, too. When you're not being selective, you're not really invested in each application, And it shows.
Yeah, that makes sense. So instead of just applying to every UX design job posting,
Yeah.
you see, what she's saying is we need like a more targeted approach.
Right. And that's where the self-awareness comes in. She talks about taking the time to really figure out what you want, what are your strengths, what kind of company culture would actually make you happy.
I love how she puts it. She's like, stop flinging spaghetti at the wall, hoping something sticks.
Yeah. So how do we actually find those ideal roles then?
Well, that's where the research comes in. It's not just, glancing at job titles. It's like really digging deep into those company websites,
Sure.
looking at the projects they're doing, really trying to understand their values.
Even connecting with people who work there, that's huge. Like get an insider's perspective,
So we're like detectives now, gathering clues to see if this company is actually a good fit.
Exactly. And that feeling like you're actually in control, that's a huge part of building confidence.
Yeah.
You're not just, reacting to whatever's out there. You're going after what you want.
Okay, so we've ditched the numbers game. We're focused on quality over quantity. What's next on our list?
Her second tip is all about improving your career materials.
Okay, so not just using a fancy resume template then.
No. It's about going way deeper than that. You need to craft a compelling narrative. Something that really showcases your accomplishments and your skills.
I love this analogy she uses. She talks about each accomplishment, each skill, each piece of positive feedback you've gotten as like a Lego block. And you're using those to build something bigger and more impressive.
I love that. And you know what? Just the process of thinking about it, that way of building that narrative, can actually really boost your confidence. When you really reflect on your journey and what you've achieved, it makes you realize your own value.
I've never thought about it like that, but that's so true. When you're acknowledging your accomplishments, it's like you're reminding yourself of what you bring to the table.
Exactly. And don't forget, this goes way beyond just your resume, your portfolio, your LinkedIn profile, even the way you network. It should all tell a consistent story of who you are professionally.
So we're talking about building a personal brand here.
Yeah, and the content of that brand is what matters. What you say is so much more important than how fancy your resume looks.
Okay, so we've got the targeted search strategy. We're working on those amazing career materials.
Yeah.
What's the last piece of the puzzle?
This one's so important, especially when you're feeling unsure of yourself. Don't go through this alone. Get support.
Yeah, it's so easy to isolate yourself during a job search.
Yeah.
You're dealing with rejection. You're second-guessing yourself. It's so lonely.
But she's saying that having support is like essential. It keeps you accountable, helps you keep moving, and you learn so much from other people.
So it can be a formal network like her program, or an online community, or even just a close friend or mentor.
Someone who can give you guidance, encouragement, keeps you going.
I think this is where a lot of people struggle.
Yeah.
It's hard to ask for help. Like you're burdening people.
But think about it this way. Everyone has something to offer. Everyone has different experiences.
Right. Someone might have just interviewed at a company you're looking at. Someone else might have the perfect advice for the UX job market.
Exactly. And when you're sharing those experiences, it makes such a difference. It's like having a whole team of career coaches in your corner.
And even more importantly, having people around you can really help with those negative thoughts. You get discouraged, you start doubting yourself. But when you have people to talk to, it helps so much.
It's like having your own personal cheer squad, right?
Exactly. They push you to keep going and remind you why you're awesome.
Oh, okay. I am loving this. So we've talked about targeted searching, crafting those amazing career materials, and building a support network.
It's all about taking control and putting your best foot forward.
Love it. We've covered some really powerful stuff here. But there's even more to unpack, so stay tuned for part 2 of our deep dive into job search confidence.
I think it's really interesting how she doesn't just focus on getting the job.
Yeah.
You know, it's like she's trying to help you build confidence for your whole career.
Yeah, it's like a career thriving toolkit or something.
And speaking of toolkits, I think a lot of people get stuck on the whole career materials thing.
Oh yeah, the resume especially, it can be so overwhelming.
It's like staring at a blank page and you have no idea where to start.
But she has some good advice there. Instead of seeing it as just a list of jobs, she wants you to think of it as like a story of your professional journey and the impact you've made.
I love that. So it's not just what you did, but how you made a difference. But how do you actually show that, how do you go beyond just listing tasks?
One thing she talks about is using strong action verbs and numbers, quantifiable results. Like instead of saying manage social media accounts, you could say increase social media engagement by 25% through strategic content creation or something like that.
Oh, I see. So you're painting a clearer picture and it's more impressive.
Exactly. You're highlighting your achievements in a way that's clear, concise, and it grabs their attention. And remember, this applies to everything, not just your resume, your portfolio, your LinkedIn, even your cover letter.
So it's about being consistent and telling a story across all platforms.
It's like building your personal brand, right?
Exactly. But sometimes I feel like I'm bragging when I talk about my accomplishments, Like, how do you find that balance between showcasing what you're good at and still being authentic?
That's a good question. I think the key is to focus on the facts, let your work speak for itself. So instead of saying, I'm a highly skilled designer, you give concrete examples that prove it.
So instead of, I'm a great collaborator, it's led a team of designers and developers to launch a new product feature, which increased user engagement by 15%.
Exactly. You're letting the results speak for themselves. And it's not about exaggerating or taking credit where it's not due. It's about owning your contributions and presenting them in a powerful way.
I love how this approach not only makes your application stronger, but it also boosts your own confidence. It's like you're reminding yourself of what you're actually capable of.
Absolutely. But what about when you get stuck? You just don't know where to start with all this.
Yeah, that happens to me all the time.
She says that's where the support system comes in. Remember, you don't have to do this alone.
Right. We talked about that earlier. But I can see how it's especially important when you're feeling lost or, unsure of yourself.
A supportive community, whether it's a mentor or a group of friends or whatever, can give you feedback on your materials, offer different perspectives and help you see your strengths.
It's like having a brainstorming partner and a cheerleader all rolled into one.
And sometimes just talking it out with someone who gets it can make all the difference.
So true. So seeking support isn't a weakness. It's actually a sign of strength.
Exactly. It shows that you're proactive, that you're willing to learn, and you're committed to putting your best foot forward.
Okay, so we've talked about targeted searching, crafting a compelling narrative, and building a support system. What else does she say about navigating the job search with confidence?
One thing that really stuck with me is how she talks about the job search as a process of self-discovery. It's not just about getting a job, it's about learning more about yourself.
Oh, wow. I never thought about it like that. But it's so true. When you approach it with that mindset, it takes the pressure off and you can actually enjoy the process even with all the ups and downs.
It's about figuring out what you really want in a career, what your values are, and where you fit in.
But how do you stay positive when you get rejected? It's so easy to let those rejections get to you and you start to lose confidence.
She has some great advice for that. She says to think of rejection as redirection.
Redirection, what do you mean?
It means that every no is actually leading you towards a better fit. It might not feel like it at the time, but it's an opportunity to learn to refine your approach and to get closer to where you're supposed to be.
So instead of focusing on the closed doors, you're looking for the open windows.
Exactly. It's a much more empowering way to look at it.
And sometimes that redirection leads you to something amazing, something you never even considered before.
I think that's happened to all of us at some point.
Totally. So it's not the end of the world if one door closes.
Nope. It's just the beginning of a new chapter.
I love that. Okay, so we've talked about crafting a compelling narrative, building a support system, and even reframing rejection as redirection. What's next on Kushali's confidence-boosting agenda?
Well, she talks a lot about networking and reaching out to companies directly, which I know can be scary for a lot of people.
Yeah, networking can be super intimidating. especially when you're looking for a job. You don't want to feel like you're just asking for favors or being desperate.
But she has a really interesting perspective on it. She says it's not about collecting business cards or, trying to sell yourself. It's about building genuine connections and sharing knowledge.
So it's more about building relationships than trying to get something out of it.
Exactly. And she suggests starting with your existing network, reach out to friends, former colleagues, anyone who might have insights or connections in your field.
That's a good point. It's easy to forget about the people you already know.
And you never know where those connections might lead.
But what about when you want to reach out to a company directly and you don't know anyone there?
She says you should do your research and find people within the company who are doing work that you admire.
So instead of sending a generic email to HR, you're reaching out to specific people.
Right. And you're tailoring your message to show how your skills and interests align with their work.
So it's more personalized and genuine.
And even if they're not hiring right now, building those connections can open doors in the future.
It's all about planting seeds and nurturing relationships.
Yeah. Exactly. But I have to ask, how do you deal with the self-doubt that comes up during networking? It's so easy to compare yourself to others and feel like you're not good enough.
Ugh, yeah, comparison is the worst.
She says the key is to shift your focus from competition to collaboration.
Collaboration? How does that apply to networking?
It means recognizing that everyone has something unique to offer. Instead of seeing other people as competition, you see them as potential allies or even sources of inspiration.
That's a much healthier mindset.
And it's more productive, too. You're celebrating each other's successes and learning from each other's journeys.
And remember, there's room for everyone to succeed.
Exactly. The job search isn't a zero-sum game.
I love it. We're all in this together.
And supporting each other can actually make the whole process more enjoyable.
Okay, so we've talked about crafting compelling narratives, building a support system, and reframing rejection as redirection. What else does Kushali have to say about navigating the job search with confidence?
Well, one thing she really emphasizes is the importance of self-care. It's so easy to let the job search take over your life, but she reminds us that taking care of ourselves is crucial for staying confident and resilient.
That's so true. It's easy to forget about yourself when you're so focused on finding a job. But what does self-care look like during a job search?
It's different for everyone, but it could be things like getting enough sleep, eating healthy, exercising, spending time in nature.
Or maybe doing something you enjoy, just to relax and recharge.
Exactly. It's about taking care of your physical, mental, and emotional well-being so you can show up as your best self.
And self-care isn't selfish. It's essential.
Right. When you take care of yourself, you're better equipped to handle the challenges, and you can approach each day with more confidence and positivity.
I love how she makes self-care a priority. It's a good reminder that this is a marathon, not a sprint. You have to pace yourself.
Absolutely. Well, we've covered a lot of ground in this deep dive.
But there's even more to explore. So stay tuned for part 3, where we'll continue our conversation about building job search confidence. It's amazing how much we've unpacked about building job search confidence already.
I know, right? Kushali has so many great insights. It's like she's helping us turn this whole thing from something scary into an opportunity for growth.
Totally. And I think a big part of that is the emphasis on self-awareness.
Oh, yeah, for sure. We've touched on that throughout our conversation, but it really seems to be the foundation for everything else.
Like, you have to know yourself before you can even begin to craft your narrative or target your search or build your support network.
It's like she's saying, hey, get to know yourself first and then go out there and conquer the job search.
Exactly. Yeah. But what about those moments when the self-doubt creeps in? When you start comparing yourself to others or feeling like you're not good enough.
Oh, I think we all experience that at some point.
How do you deal with those negative thoughts?
Well, Kushali suggests focusing on your unique value proposition.
Value proposition. That sounds kind of like a business term. What does that even mean in the context of a job search?
It's about figuring out what makes you stand out from everyone else. What are your unique skills, experiences, and perspectives?
Well, it's about owning your strengths and highlighting what makes you different, not trying to be someone you're not.
Exactly. And once you figure out your value proposition, you can weave it into your resume, your cover letter, your networking conversations, your interviews, everything.
It becomes like the core of your personal brand.
Right, the thing that makes you memorable. But I get it. Sometimes it's hard to see your own value, especially when you're feeling down.
So true. Any tips for tapping into that inner confidence?
She recommends keeping a success journal.
A success journal, what's that?
It's basically a notebook where you write down all your wins, big or small. It could be anything from landing a big project to getting positive feedback to learning a new skill.
So you're basically creating a record of all your accomplishments.
It's a way to celebrate your successes and remind yourself of how far you've come.
I love that. And I bet it's really helpful to look back on those wins when you're feeling discouraged.
Totally. It helps you shift your focus from what you haven't accomplished to what you have.
Okay, I'm definitely starting my own success journal today.
Yeah.
But I have one more question. We've talked a lot about the practical steps, but what about the emotional side of things? How do you stay positive and resilient when the job search gets tough?
Kushali's advice is to cultivate a growth mindset.
Growth mindset, I've heard of that, but I'm not sure I totally get it.
It's basically the belief that your abilities and intelligence aren't fixed. You can always learn and grow.
So instead of seeing challenges as setbacks, you see them as opportunities to learn.
Exactly. It's about embracing challenges, learning from your mistakes, and not giving up even when things get hard.
So it's not about letting setbacks define you. It's about using them as fuel to keep moving forward.
I love that analogy. It's so true.
This whole conversation has been so inspiring. It's amazing how Kushali's advice isn't just about finding a job. It's about developing a mindset that will help you succeed in all areas of your life.
Couldn't agree more. It's about finding your purpose and your place in the professional world.
And that's a journey worth embracing. Well, that's all the time we have for today's deep dive into job search confidence.
Big thanks to Kushali for sharing her wisdom.
And to you, our listener, for joining us. Remember, you are capable of amazing things. Go out there and rock your job search.
And your career.
We'll see you next time.